Hello and welcome to the Student Council, an educational advice show made for students and by students where everyone is qualified to talk about their own experiences. My name is Carter Dvorak, and today I'm so excited to complete the Thanos gauntlet of the Washington Post TikTokers with Dave Jorgenson from DePauw University and the Washington Post TikTok account. Dave, thank you so much for coming on the show today. How have you been? How have been your favorite 5 minutes of the past week?
Well, I'm so happy to finally be doing this, Carter, first of all, and to complete your very powerful gauntlet. Hopefully we continue to add people to the TikTok team so you can just, keep it going.
Yeah.
As soon as we do, you'll have to get them on as well. I've had a very busy week. We were just talking about before we got on, where uniquely busy week in so many ways, but one of them was going to VidCon for my third time. And I had a really good time moderating a panel of other news TikTokers. You might know Under the Desk News, Jack from Planet Money, who is my personal favorite, and was just as funny in person as he is in TikToks, if anyone's seen those. But the best 5 minutes of the last week was at VidCon, and I'm not just trying to say this for the podcast, it really was like so gratifying, was this high school student who was at VidCon and went to this session I had, they call it a mentorship session, which feels very like high and mighty, but it was nice. It was just like one-on-one talks with people, and she was talking about trying to get a TikTok launched in her high school yearbook. And I just thought that was like, we get a lot of brands approach us and they'll be like, what do we do? Blah, blah, blah. And that's really cool. But it's much more exciting and satisfying when a young journalist, either in college or in this case, high school, is trying to, do something that we're doing. I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but it makes me feel way cooler when someone younger is trying to do it versus like some corporate whatever in their 40s who just downloaded TikTok yesterday.
Right. That is so gratifying and so cool. And I think that the Washington Post TikTok does truly serve as like a beautiful model for how to do like really informative and really entertaining TikToks almost at the same time. Like, I think that's why the account has stuck out to me so much and why I've been so interested in talking to everybody on it. Is it's just so special and unique and cool in that sense. So I completely understand her perspective on that. I
really appreciate that. We try very hard to stand out. So I'm glad it's working.
No, and that effort is definitely seen. It's such a good account. And before we dive too far into it, I want to first kind of talk about what your time at college was like. How would you describe your college experience? What led you to DePauw, and why did you kind of first apply there, and what led you to attending?
So I came to DePauw actually as a sophomore. I transferred there, from University of Tulsa. And University of Tulsa is a really great school. I actually really, I still am friends with a lot of people that I, got to know freshman year. So it was like one of those, I think a lot of students when they transfer, sometimes it's like they had a bad experience or any number of things going to happen. For me, it was just like, this is an engineering school. I came here as an English major and they don't have a lot of opportunities for me. And it was really, I honestly think it's like still to this day, and I'm not like, I'm not trying to say like I didn't make but this is like the most adult decision I've ever made at like 19 was I need to like go to a school where I could actually do what I want to do and hopefully turn that into something. And so DePauw had been a choice, or had been a school that I'd looked into, but not very seriously while in high school. And then I re-examined it while at Tulsa, and I got into this Media Fellows program there. So I applied for that and got in. And basically the Media Fellows at DePauw is like journalism on steroids, where you can, be part of the TV station. You can be part of the newspaper. You can be part of the radio. In some cases, all three at the same time, which I did at some point. And you also, your junior year, go on an internship. And they have a lot of great connections to internships. One of them, they had like a list. I remember this piece of paper so well because I was like still at Tulsa and I visited DePauw again. And I was like thinking it through. And they showed me this list. And on the list was The Daily Show and The Colbert Report. And I was like, that would be fun. And sort of naively thought, if I get in this program, I'll be able to get an internship at one of these places. And so I got into the program and I transferred to DePauw. And I did end up getting quite lucky where I got an interview and I did get to intern at Colbert Report. But it was like, I think it was just a better place for me to be in general. It was a smaller school. I do kind of like that liberal arts feel a lot. And these really small classes and all that kind of stuff they try to sell you on smaller schools, I was really into. So yeah, it was a great experience. And leading up to, when I came back from my internship senior year, I really took advantage of it. We started like a late show. It was called the Pre-Recorded Late Night Show. And I was the host and like kind of showrunner of it. And we had 9 episodes my senior year. It got to the point where my second semester, I was spending more time on it that I asked one of my professors if I could get credit for it. So it became an independent study, and he became my advisor, which meant I just had to see him like twice a semester. That's where I learned probably more than anything outside of my internship was just like editing, shooting, writing. We had a writer's room every Sunday night. We had all kinds of fun stuff. And I think also like that in some ways is very directly related to the Washington Post TikTok launching that, where a lot of the TikTok account was just convincing people in power that we should do it. And I think that's what we were doing with the Late Show at DePauw as well.
That's so cool. That's really funny that you talk about a late show, because that's been my like dream to do at my school for like a hot minute. That's really funny.
If it's not too late.
No, it's thankfully not too late. Yeah. I'm a rising sophomore, so I've got time.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So were you the host? Was it like an interview show? Was it like sketches? Was it all of the things?
It was kind of all the things. What happened was this was right around when, and this is going to date me, but like when SNL digital shorts really were becoming a thing. And just for a sense of history for the listeners, like digital shorts are kind of what, in my view, made SNL sort of relevant again. It wasn't irrelevant, but like that's what people started watching was the Sunday morning, what was uploaded, like what did Andy Samberg make last night for a digital short. So we were doing a late night show, very like sort of Conan-esque, where we had interviews and everything like that, but then we would sprinkle in 2 or 3, actually no, at least 3 digital shorts we'd shot throughout the week, and they could be anything. Like the very first thing we did, there's a lot of things we did, but we also had a musical episode. But the first thing we did was we dressed up as painters. And we went to this one student. What do you call it? Just what's a building with classrooms? What am I?
Oh my gosh!
Just like a
building?
Yeah, whatever. Just but it was like specifically like the math and sciences building or whatever. And so
okay.
Yeah, and so like right as people were about to get out, we had the 4 of us blocking different exits, and we had little paint buckets, and we were pretending to paint the walls, but it was just water, and we had secret cameras filming. And as crowds got like, basically we created a fire hazard, honestly, but we just wanted to see if we could redirect traffic, and like everyone was stuck on the second floor and had no way of getting down. And then we had one where we had like a book club in the library, and a lot of these were shot before the show like premiered, so people didn't really know what we were doing like at all, had any idea. And we had a book club in the library, but it was 50 Shades of Grey book club, and so everyone was just very loudly reading and reacting. There's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so we did those, and then the interviews were live, like in front of a studio audience of people, mostly friends of mine initially that I could convince to come. One time we interviewed all the different like lunch ladies and lunch like chefs on campus, and at the very end of it we had like this giant sandwich laid out. I forget the initial premise, but then we did like the Oprah, like everyone in the audience got a sandwich, so I'm just throwing sandwiches, like you get a sandwich, you get a sandwich. So yeah, it was a production for sure.
That is brilliant. Is this exist in the world? Like, have you like scrubbed this from the internet, or can I find it
not
somewhere?
Intentionally. It's on Vimeo. I'll try to send you the link after. I don't know if the link is still live, but for like up until a couple years ago, there was still some, at least clips that were online. The one that I know is up for sure is we had this is the last one. I'm sorry, but I do get really excited talking about it still. That's how much, like I say this about TikToks too. Like if you're having fun doing it, that's a good sign, because I think it's contagious. But there was when you could vote for like, student body president, whatever the votes we had on campus, there was always this option, and I think it was just because they had a weird thing with the polling system on the website, but there was an option to write no vote, because you couldn't vote for no one. Like the form wouldn't let you complete it if you didn't want to vote for anyone, for like treasurer, for instance. So there was a section called no vote for each whatever. And so we ran a campaign for just no vote.
It's brilliant.
And it was like shot like a campaign ad. It was just us walking around and shaking hands and telling people to vote no vote. And then we intentionally created a deposing campaign for the other half of our late night team called Don't No Vote, and they were telling people to not vote for no vote. It was a whole deal.
I think that's absolutely incredible. Oh my gosh.
I'm glad you like it. I'm glad it stands the test a decade later.
It does. This is everything that I have dreamed of and more. So you're giving me all the inspiration. I'm curious. I was surprised, or I didn't know that you were a transfer student. Did you find? It seems like you transferred into DePauw and like thrived really well in that school. But was there any kind of road bumps in that transition?
Oh, it was really hard. I think by my junior and senior year, I kind of had my sea legs back, I guess, so to speak. But like I remember specifically, I worked between sophomore. So wait, the summers between freshman, sophomore year and sophomore and junior year, I worked at a camp in Florida. It's called Seabase for any Boy Scouts out there. And I was so away from the internet that I missed this email that said like, sign up for do your dorm questionnaire. And part of that dorm questionnaire was like confirming that I was an incoming sophomore, not a freshman. And I did that way too late. So they put me in the freshman dorm. And it was the weirdest. It was so weird because it was like I really probably could have pushed to be put in somewhere else when I got there, but I just didn't. So, but actually, I tried to make the most of that. It was actually really fun where I kind of became the king of the freshmen because all of them were just like I was only a year removed from being a freshman, but I was like watching them experience what I experienced a year prior, and like the sort of just excitement and anxiety and all these things that they were experiencing, and they would come to me with the dumbest problems, and I'm like, wow, I wonder if that's what I was like a year ago. But it worked out. So I mean, it was just kind of this weird thing where I was like, I felt like I was repeating my freshman year, even though, for the most part, all my credits transferred. So like, I don't know, it was just a weird thing. But I think by the time I got to junior year, I sort of got to a point where it felt good. And I had friends, both sophomores and junior friends. And so it was fine. Yeah.
Yeah. That is really nice. Was there any like really big piece of advice you would give to somebody just transferring schools? Because I know that's such a big process.
Oh man, I've never been asked that. That's such a. I mean, I don't know why that question would have come up. I guess, but like that's such a good question. I think you really have to. It's not like you have to become a champion of the new school, like get behind their team or like school spirit type of thing. But I think you really have to like allow yourself to like not necessarily repeat the process, but like be okay with the fact that you are doing a new school again. I think I almost had a chip on my shoulder about that, where I was like, I've already experienced all this, but like to everyone else you're meeting, whether they were my age, sophomores or freshmen, like you're new to them. So you really can't. Like, you need to just, like, approach it just fresh and think of it as a new start, however you came to transfer. I think it actually can be a really healthy thing. It can also be a really good way to grow. Because I think as much as I really did enjoy my freshman year at Tulsa, I don't know that, like, I'd done a lot of, like, personal growth. So I think there was, like, a good moment there where I actually kind of was able to, actually become a better person in a lot of ways. And also go, are these the type of friends I want to be friends with again? Do I want to, like, sort of reconsider? And for the most part, that I think I had good friends at both schools, but I just needed to, like, try to figure out what worked for me. So you have to look at it as an opportunity for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm curious too, like when you go into Tulsa and transferring over, did you always know English was your thing, or like did you have any shifts in kind of what you wanted to do or your major or anything?
It was sort of English and or film. And actually, yeah, I'm glad you asked because I joined that media program just to see if I could get like interning for Colbert. But that's actually where my interest in journalism really took off because I said I was in yearbook in high school, but I wasn't like that. That's not what I was going to school for. But then this interest in writing overall kind of brought me into journalism. So definitely I always had an interest in writing to some capacity, but I didn't know if it was going to be books or film or TV or whatever, or journalism. And it kind of became the last one for the most part.
Yeah. So you did both like fiction and nonfiction writing then?
Yeah, a lot of fiction writing. That was my favorite class at DePauw actually was a short story class. And like, that was like, I mean, I get like, sometimes you don't look forward to classes in college. That's still a very normal thing. But like, that was a class where I was like truly every day so excited to go to. And like right now, if you told me like you can go back to that twice a week, I would 100% go. That's awesome. So much fun. Yeah. No, there is something special when you find a class that you like love and get excited to go for. Like, yeah, for sure. I mean, like, you kind of get that in high school sometimes, but like you truly experience in college, especially because you have a little bit more say in what you're studying. So yeah.
No, I feel like I last semester literally took variant cover the college class because it was history of heroes and superheroes in American pop culture, and it was like, after binging all the variant cover videos, I'm like, wait a second. Like, there's
I love that. It was actually called variant cover?
It wasn't called variant cover, unfortunately.
Oh, I see. Okay. But either way, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. It was basically doing, like, exploring, different, like, themes of history and views of masculinity and femininity and all these things through comic books and superheroes. So
that's amazing.
Really fun.
Now, I think Carmela took a very similar type of class. I don't know if she talked to you about that, but, like, this came...
I don't know.
This came up, like, when Chris was doing, like, episode 9 of variant cover. She's she's like, oh, I took a class like on the intersection of like exactly what Chris's thing is about. And I was like, why did you say something before? But I thought that was pretty cool.
That is really cool. I guess the class is more common than I thought it would be, but it's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'm jealous. Everyone gets to take that. That's awesome.
Yeah. It is. I mean, your short stories class, I'm doing one of those next semester, and I'm really excited for it. So
good. Yeah. And like, I mean, the one if I can give you a recommendation for that class, you might have most definitely will have an opportunity to like look at other people's short stories and like not critique, whatever. You're supposed to like look at them and give them notes. That actually can be like, that's a chore, but it's a really good chore. Like that was probably what I was least looking forward to, is like looking through others. But there was a couple people there who I learned a lot from. And this one person, give her a shout out, Adrienne Westenfield. She now writes for like a ton of publications. And it was very immediately clear that she was a really talented writer. And I think I learned a lot from her. And she would edit all of my pieces and like give me notes, which I found valuable then. But now I'm like, oh my God, this like world-class writer was like in some ways influencing me as like a 20-year-old. So that was really cool. You might meet someone like that cool. who's super talented, or you might be that person. So, you know, it works out.
Yeah. And also, a name like Adrienne Westenfield is like a name of a published famous author.
I totally agree. So it's so funny. So I was at DePauw a little over a year ago, and I was for like this thing I was speaking at, and I was talking to my old advisor, an English professor, and he mentioned her, and he's like, from the minute I met her, it was like, she already knew exactly her name, the way she carried herself. Like, she was already a complete person. And he was totally right. Like, a lot of people come to college, like, what she was, as a freshman, this is who I am. And it was pretty funny.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about kind of finding that journalism passion in news and video and all these things. Like when you were, you know, back at college doing those late night videos or doing like starting off at like other jobs like the Independent Journal, did you think that the Washington Post TikTok is where you would eventually wind up? Like, could you have pictured that?
No, and I wouldn't say I resisted it, but I was definitely, until it was successful, I was still very much like, how do I get to be either literally on the Daily Show or something like that? Like, how do I specifically create, for instance, like a TV show on a network? And what I've found is that like, while TikTok is not literally cable or something like that, it might be better in a lot of ways, and it might be reaching more people than what I'd always kind of been working towards, which was like creating some kind of show that is potentially daily and has some comedy or politics or whatever in it. I think like in some ways we've achieved that. I'm not saying it's like done, check that box, whatever. There's still a lot of evolutions here and things that I want to do, but like I think I was resisting it only slightly, to the point where I didn't know it was as valuable as it was until it became something that people clearly appreciated. And what's really cool about it is that there's always opportunities for it to keep using the word evolve. Like our TikToks now are very different from what they were 2 years ago, and I think that's a really fun organic process to kind of see where they can go.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the reach on TikTok never ceases to surprise me. Like,
yeah, it's wild.
You know,
and what's really cool, like lately we've been reposting them to Carmela really pushed for this. I'm really glad she did, is reposting to YouTube Shorts and Reels and stuff, and that was almost immediately successful on Shorts because YouTube wants some of that viewership, so you're incentivized, all that good stuff. So it's great to see an audience that's hungry for it.
Absolutely. And I'm curious going back, because I don't know why it surprises me that the TikTok started in 2019. I guess like 2019 TikTok feels like such a different era.
It's a very different era.
Like, what was the spark of creating the Washington Post TikTok account, and like how was that process to get that approved and to get that finalized, and for like start to finish, how long was that too?
Well, it was both short and long, in the sense that like at the end of 2018 I read an article about TikTok written by Taylor Lorenz, who's now at the Post, and it was just describing what it was. I was like, well, that's interesting. And I opened the app that like around that like Christmas 2018, and I was like, what I was so excited about, honestly, that I'm coming clean about even more so now, is that you could just edit anything to music. Like I just, as someone who loves to edit video, I was like, oh my God, I could just use this Britney Spears song and just edit whatever I want to it, and no one's going to sue me. And I thought that's really cool. And then I saw that it had, I really got to check this number, but I'm certain that's what I read, that it had 1 billion downloads, which doesn't necessarily mean 1 billion users, active users. It just means that 1 billion people at the time had already downloaded TikTok in some capacity in early 2019. So I was like, well, that's a huge audience. And I've been hired at the Post to reach a younger audience, specifically with kind of host-based content. So meaning like someone in camera talking about something. And I'd been at the Post almost 2 years at that point. So I'd created relationships with people. And I used those relationships to get everyone in a meeting in March of 2019 and be like, I had this like 7-page packet of why we should be on TikTok. And I looked at it again somewhat recently. I was like, most of the stuff was only half true, but some of it did come true. Like some of it I was exactly right about, which was like, there's an audience, there's an opportunity here. There's no other news site. Like they took this as a negative. I took it as a huge positive that there was like almost no brands or news sites on TikTok. I'm like, this is a huge social media app already, and no one is using it in the way that we use Twitter, Facebook, Snap, all these places. So I was excited about that, and I got sort of a soft no, or sorry, a soft yes after that meeting, but I was busy with a lot of other stuff at the time. And then in May of 2019, Micah, the head of video, who's still the head of video, was like, why don't you try it today, do it under the radar? And so I think that's the sort of push and shove, is like, I tried it, but I did not put it under the radar. It was sort of like, I got permission, I'm going to run with it. So that's kind of how we got things to work, is like, every time we got a little bit, we took a little bit more. Like, hey, can we get this presidential candidate in a TikTok? And then when we got them, we're like, hey, Cory Booker, can you tackle me in the airport for this TikTok? And like, we did all these kinds of crazy things. When I think making the most of a moment, especially in that first year, was really what made it take off for sure.
Yeah, it's incredible. Were there any surprises as you charted that progression, which is, I guess, over 4 years now of the WAPO TikTok?
The big surprise, we really did have good momentum going into the pandemic, and I offer that up with like knowing the pandemic's a very bad thing. I want to acknowledge it, but like that did change TikTok. Like all of a sudden, a lot of our TikToks were popular on Twitter where I'd repost them, so we had like a good audience. But all of a sudden in March of 2020, everyone my age was getting TikTok, because I had a lot of friends and peers who were like, "What are you doing with that?" And they hadn't even downloaded it, and then they all got addicted like literally overnight to TikTok, and the audience aged up very quickly. There's still obviously teenagers using the app, but like suddenly there was people in their 20s and 30s on TikTok, and that was huge for our account. We got doubled our followers several times over in the next couple of years after that. So I think that was the biggest surprise, is that we could suddenly reach an even broader audience and also kind of change the content a little bit.
Absolutely. It's really cool. And you really dove into TikTok, and you created this little book here called TikTok Every Day.
Look at that. Wow.
Oh, yeah. I have it. This would like live on my person, especially at school. Like it just lives in my backpack, honestly.
Oh, that makes me really happy.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. It's a beautiful cover. I have attempted, I think I got 30 days in, not going to lie to you. And then I don't know what happened. I think just like I went home for winter break and all momentum halted in everything that I did.
Of course. That was me every winter break in college.
Yeah.
I like literally became honestly a high schooler again, or whatever that is, and was like, your brain just reverts back to like, I totally get that.
It immediately does. I will finish it one day though, I promise you, Dave.
Okay. Okay. Good.
But I'm curious, in writing this book, like this came out in 2021, so we were almost 2 years removed from that. Like, has the platform changed a lot? Like, would you change the way in which you did a book like this, or do you still feel like this is a tried and true way of like still does well with the TikTok platform and like it still is current to today?
That's a really good question. I wouldn't change it completely. I think there's a couple things. One thing that happened in the book is that and this is the publishers knew what kind of audience they were going for, but I wanted it to be much more interview focused. So you see at the start of every chapter, there's a 2-page interview. Those interviews were initially way longer, and we cut them down quite a bit. I wanted it to have like a little bit more of like in-depth look into how a TikTok creator thinks, and then the ideas sprinkled throughout. Still, 365 of them were supposed to be kind of more like supplemental, kind of funny things, like thoughtful, but also like the interviews to me were the most exciting part. So there's that. Yeah. It's a really hard book to write because, like you said, the platform is constantly changing. What I was trying to convey in the book is just like anything can be a TikTok. That's really what I was trying to say. Like all these ideas, they're either really small or really large. Like the whole point is like they're just you could just look for inspiration literally anywhere. Like one day I saw this can of Spam and I was like, that's content. You know what I mean? And I don't remember how I realized that I could just Sharpie out the P and make it Sam, but that was like, so my point, like I was just looking around my apartment, especially early on in the pandemic, going, what can be content today? And that's really like that. If I had to retitle the book, I would say everything is content. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's like that's what I would lean into even more. But I think it's just a really challenge to write that book. I would maybe get into more technical stuff, because that's something we talked about with the publisher, is like, can I like, how do you show people how to make a TikTok? But that's really hard. Like, you would need a lot of sort of, I don't know, like images, graphics, things like that to really get into the nitty gritty of it. And I just don't know if that's like something that people want to read in a book. I think I said at the time, and I think this is still true, I think a lot of people would rather have a YouTube video showing them how I make a TikTok versus a book with all the technical things. So long winding answer, but I'm very happy. I'm very proud of that book. I'm trying to figure out what like a sequel to it would be in a much more kind of in-depth way, whether it's just like a little bit more storytelling. I'm not sure, but that's something that's somewhat that's been in the works for a while. And so hopefully we figure that out.
That would be really exciting. I would love to see a sequel to this book. And yeah, I truly love, like, it's such a cool and fun book, and I truly love it. So you did a great job with this.
Thank you. And that was like written at night between.
Oh yeah.
So that was the crazy. I don't know how I did it. I honestly don't. I guess it helped that we weren't doing anything else with the post. I was just making TikToks, then at night write about it. But now there's no way I could do that. It'd be impossible.
Yeah, no, because I feel like that was also still probably written with some of the pandemic flexibility of everything too, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. Now, as you can probably see, like, I have a baby coming, so I'm like...
Oh my gosh. I presumed, and I was like, is that a baby Carrie?
Yeah. This has only recently become more public facing. There'll be a TikTok soon. But we're due in August, so yeah, there's very excited.
Oh my gosh.
The latest content. Thank you.
That should be the caption to like the picture of the first baby is just the latest content.
Yeah, I have thought about that. Like, that's an actual, and like honestly, like more seriously, that's a real question. Is like, how much should this baby, like how much should I be like my dog? I used to like, should I put my dog in force for this TikTok, or like not to compare a human to a dog, but it's like, to what degree does the audience need to see this? But I'm pretty open to it, so we'll see.
I think that there's a world of possibilities now.
Yes, yeah, exactly. TikTok needs a millennial dad, so I'm ready to fill that role for sure.
You're gonna be that guy. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Final question about TikTok, and then we're gonna get into some general kind of just rapid fire advice. Mm-hmm. Do you think that like TikTok and news content on TikTok is kind of the future for covering news? Is it always going to be supplemental, or is there going to be a day where like this is where the news is kind of coming out and coming through?
My short answer is I think supplemental is better, not just on TikTok, but everywhere. Clearly anyone that might be following our account, in the last year or so, our content has become much longer, because also what happened was TikTok was promoting longer videos, or rather like the algorithm was favoring them. So which is great. Honestly, that was like the best thing that could happen, is like now I'm not accidentally cutting something out that might be relevant to a larger news story, because we're trying to make them under 30 seconds or something like that. Now there's a little bit more flexibility there. So that's good. But I feel the same way about TikTok as I would about like cable news. I think to some degree you shouldn't be getting all your news from the cable. And I think actually we could have a whole separate podcast about like my feelings on cable news, because I think that TV news is really good, like TikTok, or can be really good, but I also think that like there might be an issue with trying to fill something 24 hours a day. I think actually in some ways we've created more news than we needed to because of that. So there's that. Mm-hmm. And with TikTok, I would feel the same way, which is like, I like that our TikToks are sometimes a summary, sometimes analysis, sometimes just an intro to a news story that people don't know, otherwise wouldn't know anything about. And I hope that they go more in depth and learn about it. So I hope that it's in that way supplemental. But to the degree that we can, we reply to comments. We do follow up TikToks and give as much information as we can when people ask about it. So I try to sort of fill that knowledge gap for people, but knowing that and hoping that they're also using other sources.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really great way of balancing it, because, and I like what you said about like sometimes there's not 24 hours worth of news in a day, because I've heard that quote before from like, there's a good news outlet called Good, and like the founder of that talked very much about how like some of the like really deep anxieties that can come from news stories come from the fact that like cable news needs to fill an hour-long ad block sometimes with a 5-minute story.
Right, exactly. And it's not like literally, I have a lot of friends that work at CNN and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's not a knock on any of those.
No.
Well, it might be a knock on Fox, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's more. We're just creating it out of thin air sometimes, and I don't know if that's healthy for everyone. But yeah, I ultimately I think that it's good that we're finding people where they, we say this all the time, but finding people where they are, which is TikTok, and I think finding them where they are, meeting them in the middle. So it being like they're on TikTok, they're seeing funny videos. Here's our video. It feels like a TikTok, but it's a little bit, you got to work a little bit more, or you actually might learn something. And I think that's better than nothing. For sure.
It is.
Yeah.
And feels like a TikTok. I always want to give you all props for the way in which you've made the videos feel so organic. Like, I think that is like
that's
truly...
the best compliment. That's the best. That's because that's what they need to feel at least to some degree effortless, but also good. Yeah, I love that.
Like, that's the thing, that there's no like breaking, at least from me, like of a scroll of a feed. Like, it fits perfectly into that. So bravo.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I'd love to get into some of the questions I'll have to ask everybody on the show. The first one is, what is the most impactful piece of advice that somebody ever gave to you?
Man. Oh, my gosh. I know this is a common question on the show, but even then, because I feel like I have a mixture of advice from different people that I get. I mean, I think one thing, I had a boss at my previous job, or 2 jobs ago, I guess. His name is Bubba. That's his real name. And
that's phenomenal.
The best. And he would really kind of tell me to sort of, like, he was really good about, like, killing your darlings, that sort of thing of, like, hey, you don't need to include this in a video or whatever. Like, that was really good. But also, I think he really encouraged me to lean into the different skill sets I had, because I kind of would be sort of like, should I help with this? Should I not help with this? Like, should I help build this set for a video or not? Like, I think he was really like encouraging, like, you should just, whatever skills you have, bring it to the table. And I think that was a really good thing for me to, I think I just needed a little bit of a push to try things that I was a little scared of. So, that's a very generic one, like, try things you're scared of. The other thing though, is my another job, that was the aforementioned Florida Sea Base, where we were called Out Island Mates. So we were in charge of, like, every week we got a different crew of Boy Scouts from around the country, like 14-year-old kids. We go live on an island in Florida Keys, sort of like Survivor.
Yeah.
And sometimes especially that first summer, I didn't know everything how to do everything. Like, there's a lot of sort of making it up as you go, even though we had a set schedule. And one thing that a lot of the overall advice for the staff was called blind confidence. And it was like, literally put your sunglasses on and just walk a straight line and figure it out. And if you look confident, they'll feel confident. And even if it kind of goes Ari, whatever, if it goes all right, whatever, like, you can figure it out and just have fun with it. So blind confidence is something that I execute often, almost every day in whatever I'm doing. And I think to some degree, having confidence in something without knowing how it's going to turn out can be really good for you and the people around you.
I love that. I think especially in the world of what you do in video creation, and kind of how I felt when I've tried my time on TikTok, is I think blind confidence is truly something needed to, like, make and put a video on the internet.
Yeah,
and trust that it goes well.
And it's weird because you want to balance that too with, like, not being, like, too cocky or like sort of having this sense of entitlement. Like, it's not entitlement, but it's also like, it kind of goes back to, like, don't be too afraid of things. Like, really, just like, have you ever heard the thing, like, if you go into an interview, you're supposed to, like, make yourself big.
Yeah.
Or whatever. That sort of, that's what it is. It's just doing that on a daily basis and how you hold yourself. And that by doing that, you help yourself and the people around you just feel a little bit more comfortable than if you were maybe perhaps kind of slouched and nervous. I think that kind of makes everyone around you nervous about the situation.
Yeah, I was doing that at a job recently. Like, I'm working on the sound crew of a run of Kinky Boots, which has been a really great summer job.
Amazing.
But I was just chilling in the band room, and I'm like, let's just see what happens. And then, like, I did that, and then 30 seconds later, I'm like, there could easily be a camera in this room, and I'm just in here alone, like, rah. And I was like, I guess I just gave him a show.
You gave him a show, and I feel like enough people know about that now. There was even that was on, like, Ted Lasso this season. They had so I think people now recognize what that is. So yeah.
No, there's a small believe sign behind me. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's just chilling.
Perfect.
Oh my gosh, I love that show so much.
It's a great show.
Oh, it's lovely.
I'm certain it's coming back in some iteration, but I don't know if they know what that is. But
I want the women's team. I think that's the perfect, like, spin-off where it's very different, but you can get some of the same cast to peek in and out. But you're gonna get a new cast, a new style, and new characters.
They clearly set it up for that one potentially, if they wanted to, for continuing AFC Rich, like the men's team.
Yes.
They did what a lot of shows used to do, like, a long time. Like, did you ever watch The Office?
Yes.
I know it's like, okay, yeah, most people have. But the episode in the 9th season, it's called The Farm.
Yes.
And it's Dwight, and that was actually basically a reworked pilot that they shot for Dwight, and then they realized the pilot wasn't taking off, so they just slightly changed it and put it in The Office. But they're constantly doing these things where it's like, what will the audience like? And I actually think that people on social media saying what they want from Ted Lasso right now might actually push the needle a certain direction, depending on what spinoff they go with.
Yeah, because the amount of times they were like cheeky and they're like, we'll see about next season, and I'm like, I know what you did there. Like,
well, and it's also they clearly, because whenever they talk, the interviews there was like, well, whatever Jason wants, and like they all clearly want Jason Sudeikis to come back, but I think he's already out the door. But
yeah,
we'll see.
I would love more with Sam in the restaurant too. I think that
would
be...
that was good. I felt like I totally agree. They gave us like just enough to keep me more interested. You know what I mean? Like it was only probably a handful of episodes, but I was like, every time I was like, oh, this is interesting, and it's totally unrelated to the rest of the plot, but I was into that for sure.
I kept hoping or wishing if they had like kind of like the Beard After Hours episode that we would get one of just him and the restaurant staff, and like I haven't seen The Bear, but maybe there could be a little crossover between those two.
The first season was really good. The second season is actually better. I was skeptical. That can be hard, but I mean, there's an episode that everyone that watched the show is talking about. Episode 6 of season 2. It's like its own movie. It's unbelievable. I couldn't, the whole time I was watching it, I was probably being annoying to my wife. I was just like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Like, okay, well, let's experience it. I'm like, but it's so good.
I have to check it out then, because I love Chef. Like, I love food content and movies and film about that. So, and
it has a lot of the heart that Ted Lasso has. It's a little bit more like gritty, like it's not as I don't want to say wholesome, but like it's not quite the same tone as Ted Lasso, but it has a lot of that like feel good, you walk away from an episode feeling really good. So I
have to check it out then. That seems really exciting. Do you have an ultimate tip for somebody going into college?
Ultimate tip, I do think, and this is true for going into jobs, I think just trying, like even if it's just like doing it one time, like trying different clubs or whatever, like classes, things like that. I, on a whim, when I, speaking of transferring to DePauw, like one thing I did really good that first semester was I had a couple friends who were going to do the rugby team. It was like a rugby club team. It's not like an official NCAA, but we play all these different schools. And I was like, okay, I'll go. I've never played rugby. And like that honestly was amazing. Like I'm still a huge rugby fan. Like I think it's the sport I enjoyed most. I played basketball through high school. Anyway, my point being, like, try things like that. I really had a great time doing that, and I did not expect to. Like I went in very apprehensive and kind of scared of like trying out for this rugby team, and it was really fun. So like doing things that you're scared of course, but also just, even if you just try them once, that's fine. Like if you go in and say like, I'm just gonna try this, if I hate it, fine. That's so much better than just having never tried it. I really think that's a good way to approach it.
I completely agree. I think that's a great philosophy, especially at college. Like high school's great, job is great, college when there's so many options and so many things to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe to that extent, like you try like it's really hard to put yourself in the shoes from 5 years from now, but like make sure you don't have any regrets of what you didn't do in college, especially if you just tried it once, you won't have those regrets. I think that really kind of also helped me get through transferring for sure.
Absolutely. What is a dorm room essential?
I know you okay, this has changed. This is not what I used to be like. But honestly, cleaning supplies. And I know that sounds very much like I'm coming at you as a parent, but I think there's something subconscious about having a clean dorm room, which I did not for most of college. But there was one semester where I had a roommate who was like actually very good at keeping things clean and stuff. And like definitely my like outlook changed. I was definitely a happier person in some extent. So God, that's such a lame answer, but honestly, cleaning supplies or whatever that is for you, like something that kind of also helps you sort of organize your mind, even if it's like a broom. I don't know, but I actually think that's an essential.
I completely agree. I loved, like, I would take a Saturday at times, usually like when my roommate would go on like a mock trial trip, and like I would just have the room to myself where I would just take everything out of everywhere and dust, and such a satisfying thing to do.
You're so much better than I was. That's amazing. Good for you.
I don't know, man. It was just such a dusty room, and I'm like, I can't live like this. Like, it was bad.
Yeah, but that's good. And I think also, like, I mean, that the deeper part of that is, people might, even if they're not even subconsciously aware of it, they may not want to come to your dorm if it's just like messy, whatever. Like I realized that at one point. I was like, I have a lot of friends who I don't want to meet them in their dorm because I just know it's a pigsty. So yeah.
It's like we can find a neutral location. There's a common room somewhere.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Do you have a moment from high school that you still think about?
Oh, I have a really sweet moment that I really my last basketball game, so there was a guy who was he's still at that high school. He's no longer a coach, but he was the assistant varsity coach for years, and he had been the coach of the girls team when my sister was there. I'd known him my whole life, and he's not it was a very sort of Ted Lasso moment, actually.
Oh yeah.
He's because he's very sort of not like a Roy Kent, but like, you know, a little bit more gruff, but like not emotional. And he just gave me like the best hug I've ever had. Honestly, there was so much like emotion in it where I was just so sad because I knew I wasn't going to play in college, and like I'd put so much work into basketball for so long, and it was like I knew this was like my last like anything like big time game or anything like that. So I just got this just a really meaningful hug. It was very sort of I don't know. There was just so much behind it that I still think about like how significant that was to have. Like, I'm really grateful he did it because I think I needed something to feel to close that chapter. Whereas I might have walked away being one of those guys, you know, like still talking about their glory days in a way that like is unhealthy.
Right.
Yeah.
I completely hear you. Yeah. It added something kind of ceremonious to the end of it all.
Yes. That's exactly
really beautiful.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. What song would you add to a school survival playlist?
School survival. I feel like I'm getting really old in my answers because the cleaning supplies, school survival play. So things that actually helped me study and finish like whatever I was working on was classical music because it's familiar. You probably know a lot of Beethoven songs without knowing them, but you're not going to be singing along. There's no lyrics. So school survival for me was like when I actually wanted to get a report done or anything, actually like a paper, I had to have classical music on. So I'm going to say classical music because I think it actually is like the other stuff you end up getting distracted and singing along or whatever that is.
Yeah. Could you name a classical chart in particular or just any piece of classical music?
I don't think I can because I would just type in, at the time it was Pandora. I would just type in like classical music or whatever, and I would just, you know, whatever showed up. I that's probably bad that I never paid attention to what I was listening to, but it helped.
No, it does help.
Yeah.
What a world Pandora was. You like unlocked a box of memories for me. Good.
Pandora's box. Yeah. I also would listen to on Pandora. I remember this so well. I would type in, this is so lame. I would type in observational comedy because I knew that was my favorite type of stand-up comedians, and I would just get like the rotation of stand-up albums, whatever. Yeah, that was the thing.
Just like Jerry Seinfeld coming through the phone, like, what's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, God, some of them were really dated. It was like, I mean, I think Jim Gaffigan's funny, but it was like Jim Gaffigan type of humor where it was like, now it's still funny, but it's not whatever. It's not as maybe relevant. Like, who's that one guy who he had a special on HBO that's I can't remember it. There's a guy recently who was really funny. He was like dressed in all white. And it was like an all white stage. I do not remember his name, but that's the guy that I would recommend now on Pandora.
Okay. Awesome. To the 7 people who still have Pandora, this one's for you.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, still, it's a platform. I just
no. I have Spotify. I haven't touched it for years. Yeah.
No. Yeah. I think I was like talking to my grandma, and she's like, "Yeah, I pay for Pandora," and I'm like, "You shouldn't." Like,
yeah,
why?
You shouldn't do. Why are you doing that? Stop. Also, like anymore, I found out the other day, so I use Spotify, but that my Verizon account comes with free Apple Music. I had no idea.
Wow.
No one ever told me. It's like, why wouldn't I? Yeah, so now I have that and Spotify, I guess.
Apple's so secretive in the platforms that it gives you for free. Like, you can get free Apple TV, but only if you want to.
Yeah, why do they do that? Like, I wouldn't be using, I mean, I already use enough Apple products, but I'd be using even more if they told me what I had access to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Final question of the interview is, what would you tell your freshman self in high school and then your first year? How about your first year self in college pre and then post transfer?
Okay. Freshman self in high school. I wouldn't have a lot of advice. I had a really good high school experience, but I think I would just say, your sister's not that bad. She's pretty great. My sister was 2 years older than me, and I was so embarrassed by her sometimes. Not embarrassed, like just annoyed by her. And now I look back and like that is my freshman and sophomore year were so important to our even existing relationship, because we drive to school every day, all those kinds of things. So I would say like really lean into that relationship, and I did, but like really, like it sounds like Adam Sandler when he's like cherish it, but like cherish it. I think I don't know that I fully did at the time, but now I do. And then freshman year of college, first year, I think I would tell myself for the freshman year at Tulsa, like it's all going to be okay, because I was definitely I don't think I had like quite a Ted Lasso panic attack situation, but I was definitely like like on the verge for a while. And I ended up, doing what I think I needed to do. And I think believe I made the right decision. Well, I'm certain I did because I feel good about where I am. But I think I was very worried about what the right decision was. So don't worry about making the right decision. Just worry about making a good decision. That's what I tell that person. And then sophomore year at DePauw, man, I'd probably say... That's really tough. I don't know what I would say to that person. Because I think that person, like, I think it worked out, but I was just like, maybe go on a few more runs. I found out later on that like going on a run was really good for me. And I didn't like junior, senior year, I kind of figured that out. But like sophomore year, I just showed up and was just like, let's go to a party. And like, definitely my actual health was not in a good position. And I don't mean like, don't drink. I don't mean like that. I was just like, I think I just forgot how to take care of myself for a second. So like, it's the same thing as like the clean supplies thing. Like maybe just take care of yourself a little bit more. I think I needed to do that more at that time.
Absolutely. Those are all great advice. I love the quote, make a good decision, not the right decision. That's beautiful. Like I'd live by that. I get that as a tattoo, honestly. Okay. Like,
perfect. I have 3 tattoos on my back. And the first 2 are quite serious from like a book and a movie. And the third one was a dare. And the guy didn't think I was going to do it. And it's ravioli, ravioli, give me the formioli from SpongeBob. So just
like in like a font, like in like cursive font, or
exactly.
Like...
It's like cursive because I really like the first 2 ones. One's a Hemingway quote. The other one is from the movie Her, and they're very self-serious. Like they mean a lot to me, but they just felt like if you're reading my back, like this guy is either a douche or takes himself too seriously. So I was like, if the third one is a SpongeBob quote, that's the best scenario. Yeah. So anyway,
amazing. Well, that is the end of our episode. I am so grateful to talk to you. Thank you again for coming on. Do you have anything you'd like to plug, anything to promote? I know you've got some TikToks you want to put out there, I presume.
Follow us on TikTok at Washington Post. Also, if you don't mind, follow my personal TikTok account at Dave Jorgenson. I don't post there a lot, but I hope to post there more, especially, as from the millennial dad angle. If anyone's interested in that. And then, as a whole, just, keep following us. I'm going to take this is funny. I'm like kind of using this as like the soft announcement for what we'll later say on TikTok. But like I have paternity leave, so I'll be like gone for most of the rest of the year. So keep following Washington Post and give Carmela all the support she needs. Because she's going to do amazing, but I want to make sure that like our audience is like sticking there with it. And I think this is her moment to shine too. So just that's my plug is. Also follow Carmela on all platforms because she's going to kill it. So I'm very excited for her to just like take this mantle and have fun with it.
Oh yeah, she's going to crush it. She will slay, and you will be slaying as your millennial dad.
That's right.
Exciting.
That's right.
Yeah. No, anytime there's a video from the Dave Jorgenson TikTok, I feel like it's a good day. Like it just is such a fun, like the 52 card video. I think about that one so much.
I'm so glad. Oh God, that's honestly, that is the best compliment you can. I thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
Yes.
And like, I'm not often trying to like self-promote that. I don't know. I just thought it was so funny. And and the reaction was like, I don't know, a mixture of this, what is this? And this is funny. So I'm glad you liked it.
I feel like I might even put this in a comment, but like you are now my go-to card salesman. Where like if I need to like sell a deck of cards, I'm just gonna send them to you and be like, "Can we do this again?" Like
the funniest part was there's a few people that commented like, "I actually got their card first," which was so good.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Well, that makes me happy. Yeah. No, there'll be a lot of. I like to think of it as the DVD commentary section of the Washington Post. So it's just like really niche content and/or bloopers on my personal account. So yeah.
That is phenomenal. Well, thank you so much again for coming on.
Of course. Thanks, Carter. I hope I didn't take too much of your time. I started blabbing at a certain point. So
no, I don't want to take any much of your time. I presume you've got stuff to do, like work
to make TikToks
to do today.
Yeah.
Time to make TikToks.
Yes.
But yeah, any other parting words before we head out of here?
No, thanks so much for having me. I really do hope you get the next addition to the TikTok team on here as well. So just to continue the gauntlet. Yeah,
I need to. I think Chris, the new Chris, I'm gonna have to hit him up. Chris C.
Yeah. We're gonna have him for another couple weeks again, and maybe it'll be like a Chris V. Vasquez situation a couple years ago, and we got him the rest of the year. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. That's very exciting. Well, I've been Carter Dvorak. That over there has been Dave Jorgenson. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Student Council. If you want to find us, all our socials are at StucoPod. Our email is stucopod@gmail.com. Wishing you the best of luck and the best of times in all of your educational endeavors. The Student Council is adjourned.